Okay. First, it's a gift to have all of you here. I'm John Kidd, and I'm going to be the host today, and wanted to begin with a prayer by Pastor Mark Travis.
Would you please join your hearts with mine in prayer? Adonai, source of justice, mercy, and peace, we give thanks for every tradition that is gathered here this day, for every voice seeking truth and every heart longing for the common good. Bless our conversations today. Grant us courage to speak, humility to listen deeply, and the wisdom to discern together. Where we disagree, let love remain. Where we find common ground, let hope grow. May our faith never be content with words alone, but move our hands to serve, our voices to advocate, and our lives to bear witness to the dignity of every person. Send us forth from this gathered place, renewed in spirit, steadfast in compassion, and committed to building communities where justice and mercy embrace, where peace is pursued, and where all your children can flourish. May the Holy One bless and keep us. May the Christ walk beside us, and the Holy Spirit inspire us to live our faith with courage in the public square, always rooted in love. Amen.
Thank you, Pastor Travis. So next, the land acknowledgement. Every part of this soil is sacred in the estimation of my people. I'm quoting from Chief Seattle. Every hillside, every valley, every plain and grove has been hallowed by some sad or happy event in days long vanished. So we would like to begin by acknowledging that the land on which we gather is within the ancestral territory of the Shequabs people, the people of clear salt water. Expert fishermen, canoe builders, basket weavers, the Shequabs live in harmony with the lands and waterways along Washington's central Salish coast, as they have for 10,000 years. The Shequabs live and protect the land and waters of their ancestors for future generations, as promised by the Point Elliott Treaty. As an addition, I'd like to acknowledge the land that we share in terms of our imagination, the land of our hope, the land of our determination, the land of our desire to live in a community where we actually practice the golden rule. So I want to begin with some thanks. Thanks for the gift of your hope, your time, your attention. Thanks to Grace for hosting this event. They put in a lot of time for this community. Thanks to Third Act and Standing Together for sponsoring it. Thanks to the vast flock of volunteers who put in hundreds of hours to make this happen. Today's task and today's focus is to consider what we can do between now and November. So let's begin here, what we're feeling. The body of democracy. Right now, our Postmaster General has indicated the United States Postal Service will not deliver mail-in ballots in Washington state or any other state if they do not surrender their state-based voting records. One judge has opposed it, and it's on appeal. For me, this is scary. So, how many people feel like they have difficulty talking to the other side? Raise your hand. How many people feel discouragement? Raise your hand. How many people feel unprotected? How many people feel overwhelmed by angry voices and negative news? How many people feel there is no clear solution? How many people feel like you don't have real influence? So, 3 points might be derived from this. First, we have traumatic unity. We're all members of a fearful community. The good news is that community is expanding. It now includes most independents and quite a few estranged Republicans who no longer support the administration. 3, could we turn the tide in Congress? Could 100 folks here make any difference if we don't have millions to spend? While all the volunteers think we can make a difference, I think you deserve a second opinion from a real expert, our state representative, Greg Nance.
John, thank you. Thank you for organizing this. Thank you for holding space. And thank you for the invitation to join you today. I want to start by naming one thing many of us are carrying in this room today. Who could have expected that 1 week, thank you, before our 250th birthday, before we celebrate 250 years of this extraordinary democratic experiment, we'd be gathered here as our republic is under threat from a cruel and corrupt administration? There is no doubt that storm clouds hang over our nation's capital. And it would be easy in a moment like this to feel powerless in the face of these storm clouds. But here is what I have come to believe. America and our quest for a more perfect union has always been a relay race. Every generation receives the baton, sometimes in times of peace and prosperity, sometimes in times of trouble and turbulence. And their job is to carry it forward and to hand it off in better shape than they found it. I learned that lesson from my grandpa Charlie, a 22-year-old Marine who carried the baton at Iwo Jima. The generations before us have carried the baton through depression, through World War, and the struggles for civil rights. They answered the call, and so shall we. Washington cannot fix Washington, D.C., but we can build something here on Bainbridge Island, in Kitsap, and across this great state that restores what is fraying right now: public trust. Trust that government can actually work. Trust that neighbors genuinely show up for each other. Trust that we can protect our most vulnerable, lifting every voice. And trust that the belief that our republic's best days are in front of us. That's not small work. This is the work that how democracies survive dark moments and dark seasons. So I'll leave you with the question John has set before all of us today. What am I called to do, and with whom? My answer is to carry the baton forward with this community. And I am grateful, deeply grateful, that we have thoughtful and caring neighbors and engaged citizens working together to build a more perfect union. 250 years of Americans did their part. They answered the call, and so shall we. Thank you.
What we can do here is best indicated by what we have done here. 3 years ago, we had this initiative called Initiative 2117. And that was bankrolled by a multimillionaire, and it sought to gut our Climate Commitment Act pricing system. And it had broad appeal because basically it was saying if you get rid of this Climate Commitment Act, then you're going to have much cheaper gas. Oregon's gas price was much lower because they had no CCA. So 6 or 7 Bainbridgers gathered together and said, what can we do about it? How can we campaign? And we found it was really difficult. We went up and down the lines in the ferries, and we would say, well, we want you to vote no against reducing taxes. That didn't work very well. So most folks' eyes glazed over, and they kind of shrugged and didn't roll their windows down. So we were really discouraged. So then we said, okay, we got to find a different way to mess with this. How can we turn the corner on something where it was stacked against us? So we thought about, okay, what do folks really care about? And Kitsap County is very ferry dependent, and ferries depended on the CCA funding. And that the CCA funds were key for ferries, and if they lost those funds, they would take away boats. So we made a flyer, and we just changed the campaign in Kitsap. Not any other county, but save our ferries, vote no. So in a nutshell, we started off, Kitsap had never voted more than 42% in favor of climate-related taxes like the CCA. And we thought, okay, maybe we can get it to 50. That was our big goal. But this went all over the state. The Inland Boatmen's Union bought into the idea. So we had it being put out in 7 different counties. And we had a lot of other people going, and we learned all about riding the Seahawks boats where you can talk to 3,000 people in one boat, and talk to them in a big tranche at one time. So we blew right past our 50% vote and got 62%. And so no other county in Washington had this amount of increase in vote. And this started with 6 Bainbridgers. And they have talents that are no greater than yours. So the opportunity is immense. So let's review our program for today, beginning with the card that each of you were given. It has that one question that Greg noted: what am I called to do and with whom? Our mission is that you leave this day with an answer on that card. You all have a copy of the program. It's going to begin with beautiful cello music. Then we move to 3 wise speakers, a shared song with Kathryn and Lafond. Then we'll have 6 breakout groups where you get a chance to meet and explore more specifically what you want to do: midterms, supporting immigrants, civil rights, resistance and protest, climate and democracy, faith and action. After that, we'll return to listen to your facilitators share how they were moved by you. Then I'll introduce you to local democracy healing organizations, then to the volunteers who made this possible, and then Kathryn Lafond, our musical singer, will sing us home, and we'll head for a coffee hour, more good conversation, and so on. So now we move to cello. To help the heart digest these wonderful words, Priscilla Jones and Barbara Depp will play their cellos. Priscilla, on the right, or in the green, brings 50 years of contemplation and play. She plays locally for the BPA, her quartet Olympic Serenade, and her trio, which is 2/3 here today, Cello Mania. Priscilla sees herself sending out low-frequency vibrations to calm and inspire. She loves working with children and young adults, and with the inner children of folks like us of our particular vintage, by sharing her love of music, cello, and the art of growing into thoughtfulness. Barbara Deppe is a gift of Ames, Iowa, where she learned to play cello. I think that was about 50 playing years ago. She's owned Winslow Massage for 20 years and works with Kids in Concert, a nonprofit which provides free after-school music and youth development. Priscilla and Barbara met while playing cello in the Bainbridge Symphony Orchestra and have been fast friends for 30 years. Consider, in listening to Priscilla and Barbara, the democracy of harmony, where our hearts join while leaving our differences in the dust. They will play 2 features: a fugue by J.S. Bach and a ragtime song by Scott Joplin. Scott Joplin once wrote, "The beauty of music transcends barriers, bringing people together." I think that's accurate. And another person wrote regarding Bach that listening to Bach's fugues is like witnessing conversation between souls. So I'd say that these two women embody musical devotion. Yes? Anyway, our three speakers today embody devotion to democracy. Our first is Pastor Mark Travis of Eagle Harbor's UCC. Although he would probably deny it, he is a brilliant theologian, a skilled and empathic therapist, a passionate lifelong advocate for justice, a devoted dad to 3 daughters, a devoted husband of 35 years to his partner Michael, and a very capable pastor for the past 35 years. Given all of this depressing level of achievement, it's nice to know he has a few weaknesses, such as binge watching The West Wing. So I give you Pastor Mark Harris.
Thank you. It's wonderful to be with all of you here today. And as I was listening to the cellist, I couldn't, their fingers going up and down the instrument was just as mesmerizing as your notes that you brought into our hearts. So thank you so much. When Moses stood before the burning bush, God called out to him to remove his shoes because the land upon which you are standing is sacred. And then God called him to go out to the Hebrew people who were enslaved, to go back down to Cairo where he had just escaped from, to go and lead his people. And Moses said to God, "Hey, I don't speak Hebrew. I don't even know who you are. I don't know these people, and I have a speech impediment. How am I supposed to lead? How am I supposed to do this civil justice work of liberation on my own when I don't even know the people?" And God said to him, "You've got your brother Aaron, your sister Miriam. You're not alone. No one in this room has to do this by yourselves. We do this in community. We do this with our brothers and sisters by our side because all of our hearts are tuned to the movement of social justice, to the movement and to the echoes of Scripture that calls us to bring words of liberation to those who are oppressed, and that each one of us has that responsibility. What am I called to do? And with whom is the message that I hope is resonating in your hearts during our time together here. Do I hear an amen? Amen. We are in church. The prophet Amos shouts to the mountains, "Let justice roll down like waters and righteousness like an ever-flowing stream." The apostle Paul in his letters to the Philippians writes, "Let each of you look out not only for your own interests, but also for the interests of others." The church was born from the suffering and the hopes of the world, and it cannot exist apart from it. The Hebrew Bible and the New Testament have always spoken out to systems of power and injustice, exclusion and oppression. To preach the teachings of Jesus honestly means engaging the moral realities shaping people's lives. There's a scene in the Gospel of Luke during Palm Sunday parade where the crowds are shouting, "Hosanna, Hosanna," which means save us. Save us from poverty. Save us from oppression. And the Pharisees, they go to Jesus and says to Jesus, "Hey, Jesus, you need to tell your disciples to quiet down. You need to tell your disciples to stop rocking the boat and upsetting the Romans." And how does Jesus respond? He doesn't say, "Okay, you're right. We won't rock the boat. I know I'm making you feel uncomfortable by our shouting. I know that we are making you uncomfortable by marching against the oppressive regimes." Now, he doesn't say that. Jesus points to some stones on the ground, and he says to them, "If my disciples were silent, these stones would shout." So folks, shout. Jesus was not a wallflower, and neither should we be. He did not stay silent as he witnessed the oppression of the poor and the immigrant, the sick, the marginalized, women and children, those being oppressed and crushed by religious and political power. It would be professional misconduct and violate the fundamental faith values that I hold dear if I were to stay silent in the pulpit when people are suffering from oppressive policies and actions of an immoral administration. The Gospels inform us about Jesus are not merely for private spiritual growth and renewal. They are about the transformation of human relationships and society itself at a communal level. For me, Jesus calls me to get down from the mountaintop, to get down from comfort, and to get down into the valleys, and to be part of a rapid response team that has already pre-addressed and stamped cards to send out that are piled somewhere in your churches or places of worship. A list of politicians' names and contact information in the narthex of the church. Any lawyers in your congregation who might set up a draft of the do's and don'ts of church and clergy responses just to make sure that we're doing things correctly? Seeking out partners like the NAACP and their church relationships, and along with Common Point, as well as other groups, figuring out how can we get our parishioners and our pastors, our clergy involved. Church newsletters. Maybe have a section called Know Your Rights when it comes to voting and protesting. Maybe a column that says social justice section in your newsletter that draws attention and advice on the different themes that you hear today, tuned to your congregation's culture. Attend rallies, events sponsored by the NAACP and other groups, and find ways to get your youth and families involved in the social justice action networks of your religious affiliations. Silence from the church becomes a theological statement of its own. Silence fuels detachment from human cries. Silence fuels hatred and oppression of the vulnerable. Look at the Bible. The prophets spoke directly to the kings. They called them out. They called out the economic injustices and systems of oppression. Amos, he condemned the exploitation of the poor. The big, beautiful bill that steals food and medicine and shelter and integrity from those who are struggling to survive, so that billionaires can have what? More billions? Shame on them. Shame on them for neglecting the needs of the many. Isaiah denounced corrupt leadership that we're witnessing today in our times. Moses confronted Pharaoh. Jesus confronted imperial violence and religious hypocrisy, such as the supposed Christian nationalists who are anything but Christian. Biblical faith has never been disconnected from public life. God is always raising up prophets, that's all of you, to lift up and to tend to the sufferings of her people. Silence to suffering from the pulpit is complicity. For me, I am not preaching politics. I am preaching the gospel of Jesus Christ, who compels me to not put my light under a bushel basket, to not put the church's light under a bushel basket, but to shout out from mountaintops. During World War II, there was a parable that was being shared. One night, 10 guests were invited to dine together, and one of them was a Nazi. And all night long, the Nazis spewed propaganda of hate and no one challenged him. By the end of the night, there were 10 Nazis at that table. There are moments in history when neutrality of clergy and the church protects the oppressors more than the people. And we see this in the archives of history in this country, where churches have been split, denominations literally split over speaking out or speaking for different atrocious policies and social positions, slavery that plagued this country. Jim Crow laws and segregation, silence during the Holocaust, the Japanese internment camps where residents of this community were torn apart. Attacks on the LGBTQIA community, specifically our transgender and non-binary loved ones, silence towards racism, misogyny, xenophobia. Pastoral silence from the pulpit for me is not pastoral care. It is abandoning not only the core principles of my Christian faith, but is also abandoning the vows that I took when I was ordained. Faithful preaching is not endorsing a political party or candidate. I just want to say that in case there's any IRS agents in the room. It is proclaiming moral and spiritual truths rooted in Christian faith, nourished not only by the Bible, but also by, here's a word that Texas may not like, science, and stories of the people that I served, and stories of the people suffering beyond the church's walls. As a pastor, I need to ask myself, does this policy of the government protect human dignity, or does it strip it away? Does it reflect Christ's call to love thy neighbor? Does it increase justice, or does it deepen suffering? Does it honor the image of God, not just people who look like me? When legislation harms vulnerable communities, strips rights such as the right to vote and the right to peacefully protest, when it targets minorities, and this administration clearly is targeting minorities, when it encourages fear and exclusion. I mean, can you not just hear Trump's rhetoric? Vitriol that is dividing this country? Pastors have that moral obligation to speak, to march, and to stir up good trouble. We must not be one of those 9 people at the dinner tables who did not stand up against and refute the Nazi propaganda. So you're going to need to stand up, knock on doors, make phone calls, send letters, and speak out, organize, and be part of the solution. Thank you.
That's a heck of a start. Okay. Robert Harris is more than a talented engineer. He's an engineer of justice and community. He served as the president of Bremerton NAACP for almost 6 years, and it covers 3 counties. He's married to Tracy Flood Harris, who was the first Black female judge elected in Kitsap County. They have 4 kids and 3 grandchildren. For relaxation, Robert used to do 2-mile obstacle courses. Now he faces an injustice obstacle course every day. That's devotion. Robert Harris.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here. And hey, before I get started, I want to say, if you haven't, I would like for you to greet your neighbor. Tell them thank you for being here today. Now, doesn't that feel better? All right. So on behalf of NAACP Bremerton, I want to welcome all of our guests, partners, community leaders, and family members to join us today. We are honored to stand with you. I also want to extend our deepest gratitude to our organizer, Mr. John Kidd, today's speakers, and every volunteer that has made this event possible. Your commitment is the heartbeat of this work. And John kind of touched on one of these things earlier about one person making a movement, and I want to just leave you with just a quote. One becomes many when the mission is bigger than the moment. So you think about that. Now, Dr. King was one of those sparked a nationwide movement to address racism, injustice all across the country. So when you think about, hey, what can I do as just a single person? That single person touches another person to get people moving in the right direction. So never think that that one voice does not matter. Your voice always matters. Remember that. The NAACP stands for the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. I strongly encourage any community members that believes in the mission of the NAACP to join our historic organization, which we are the oldest civil rights organization in the country, been in existence since 1909. NAACP Bremerton, we represent Jefferson, Mason, Kitsap County. We have been on the front lines since 1943. And we have been on those front lines fighting against racism, injustice, inequities, voter suppression, gerrymandering, erasure of Black historical contribution, misinformation, and environmental justice. As always, we ground ourselves in the mission of the NAACP. Our mission is to achieve equity, political rights, and social inclusion by advancing policies and practices that expand human and civil rights, eliminate discrimination, and accelerate the well-being, education, and economic security of Black people and all persons of color. Today, I want to speak directly to our community, as we cannot afford to wait. Our nation cannot afford to wait. Our democracy cannot afford to wait. The time to act is now, or risk a future of erosion for all we hold dear, not only at our local communities, but across the nation. The challenges we face: attacks on democracy, attacks on voter rights, threats to Black history, inequities in education, the need for stronger civic participation require action now and not later. And the good news is, put together a 12-point action plan that we as communities can start working on. Number one, we must educate our community about redistricting. Gerrymandering is not abstract. It shapes who has a voice and who gets silenced. We can develop monthly workshops, easy-to-read infographics, hands-on map drawing one-on-one sessions. We can partner with colleges, create videos, explainers, and distribute guides in churches, barbershops, libraries, community centers. When people understand the map, they understand their power. The next census will take place in 2030, and states will begin redistricting the process in 2031. Population changes in the census count affect both the number of congressional districts a state has, as well as the size and shape of those districts. We must make sure our community members participate in the next census. Number two, we can build rapid response voter protection teams. This means recruiting trained volunteers who can monitor elections, assist voters facing barriers, and document suppression in real time. It means establishing a voter assistance hotline, coordinating transportation, and offering Know Your Rights sessions. Sessions in neighborhoods most impacted by obstacles at the ballot box. Three, we can mobilize a Protect Black History Parent Educator Network. Across the country, we are seeing attempts to erase and distort Black history. Not here, not on our watch. This plan would include a rapid alert system for curriculum changes, a shared resource library, training for parents on giving effective public comment, and partnerships with authors, historians, and cultural institutions. Number 4, we can coordinate a legislature pressure week. Imagine an entire community calling, emailing, and visiting elected officials in the same week. We can provide scripts, talking points, organize group visits to Olympia and local districts. We can track responses and publish transparency reports to community so the community knows who stands with us. Number 5, we can strengthen the NAACP memberships and partnerships. The great Dr. Martin Luther King stated, "We must learn to live together as brothers or we will perish as fools." And one thing that we've been trying to do at the NAACP is reach out to various community members and organizations, in Jefferson, Mason, and Kitsap County so that we can, start to collaborate better together. There's a lot of siloing that happens here in these communities. And if we're going to continue to be siloed, we're going to be very much less effective. So we have to start working together. Coordinated efforts is the way to move forward, and it's the way to get the attention of our legislators, not only at the state level, but at the federal level. We are creating a local Black History Preservation project. Our stories matter. We are in the process of collecting oral stories or histories, photographs, documents, artifacts. We will train volunteers to partner with museums, build a digital archive, host scan and share days, and develop a traveling exhibit for libraries and communities. And we're already working with an organization here, and a young lady that lives here on Bainbridge Island, Mrs. Akuya Karen Vargas, who is doing a lot of this work, so we are supporting that. And we're hoping to maybe have a facility in the Kitsap County area where we can have that material on display all the time as an educational tool. We're investing in youth, our youth civic leadership labs. Young people are not just the future, they are the present. We can offer hands-on workshops, create the Youth Advisory Council, partner with schools, and host annual youth advocacy summits. We must be able to pass the torch to our youth who can continue the mission. Number 8, we can develop a community accountability scorecard. This scorecard would track local officials, how they vote on fair maps, civil rights, and Black history. It could be published online and in print, updated quarterly, and shared with the public in briefings. Transparency builds trust and accountability. Number 9, we can organize public forums and town halls on democracy. Across the country, redistricting efforts are being designed to erase the influence of Black communities, silence our voices, and reverse decades of hard-won progress. Town halls and public forums will bring experts, elected officials, civil rights leaders together. Communities can provide childcare, food, transportation, and record the events for broader access. Democracy grows when people can fully participate. Number 10, we will celebrate Black history year-round, not just in February, through cultural events, walking tours, art installations, murals in Quincy Square, field trips, storytelling, and partnerships with local businesses. We will uplift Black excellence every month of the year. 11, we will strengthen our financial foundation. Donations fuel the mission. We will launch our recurring donor program, provide transparent reporting, host fundraising events, invite businesses to become annual sponsors. Donors will have the opportunity to support specific events like our AXO program, which is our Afrocentric Cultural, Technical, and Scientific Olympics, Youth and Law Forums, Know Your Rights Forums, Get to Know Your Candidate Forums. NAACP does a lot of these things throughout the year to make sure that we are putting the information in the hand of the people. And finally, we can expand volunteer engagement. We can create a clear onboarding program offering flexible opportunities, highlight volunteer contributions, and build specialized teams in advocacy, youth programs, events, and outreach so everyone has a role. My closing call to action, if you can teach, teach. If you can organize, organize. If you can donate, donate. If you can speak up, speak up. In closing, everybody get off the sidelines and get engaged. Thank you.
Yeah, at this point, I want to suggest a rephrasing. I don't think it's a matter of donating, it's a matter of investing in the future we want, the rights we want, the fairness we want, the voting we want, the kindness and the decency we want. So, Binh Truong, I've asked around about her. Some say she's lightning in a bottle. But she began as the Common Power volunteer and is now, after a few short years, as the general manager of their entire fieldwork team. So that means all volunteers in elections related to Common Power. So she's involved in leading the recruiting, the training, the coordinating thousands of volunteers to door knock on swing states all over the country. As a sample, just this year, her team expects to field over 2,000 volunteers across 20 states and 50 elections. Boy, anyway, Binh came to Common Power through their Next Gen Leaders program, which is called Action Academy. And Common Power really is about bringing from what is common to all of us the power to create more of what all of us need. So they got hooked on leading volunteers and bringing young people into civics. Since then, they helped to create a volunteer mobilization system that can respond to critical elections, both big, small, and nationwide. So she comes here fresh from being all over the nation managing campaigns everywhere, and I couldn't think of a better person to give us an idea of what we might do to make a difference to our future legislators back east. Thank you. Binh.
Okay. Also, give a hand up for John, who organized this whole event. Yeah. It's good. There's like minimum speaking time, a lot of workshop, a lot of exercise, and great music. It's a really good event. So, all right. Before I get started, who here has heard of Common Power? Okay, beautiful. Who has door knocked before in their lives? Okay. Anybody door knocked with Common Power before? Okay. All right. Shout out, B. Okay. So as John was saying, Common Power, we're an organization of volunteers, which means we recruit and we train volunteers from all across the country to door knock all across the country in critical swing states all year round, every year. We've been doing it since 2018. So I think just to give a little bit of like a sense of scale here, this year's a midterms year. And so far, since the beginning of this year in 2026, we have door knocked in 9 states. We have ran 15 door knocking trips, done 5 shifts, and with 164 volunteers, we've done 20,000 doors across the country. Yeah. All right. But then some of you are thinking, but wait, the general is in November. What are you doing? What have you been doing? Well, we've been working in primary elections. We're one of the few organizations that take a step out there and actually back candidates before they're decided. So we went for Talarico in Texas in March. Yeah. We were just in Bangor in Maine in May for Plattner. And we've been in so many other states because we believe that like since 2024, the best way to know how to win is to get out there and figure it out. We can't wait until the general to start. So what we look for, I'm gonna give a quick brief of like, okay, this might be a little controversial, all right? Like, why do we get involved in primaries? What do we look for in an election, in a primary? And what do we look for in a candidate in a primary election? Because we don't just go for every election in a primary, it's intentional. When we look across the nation, and we've been doing this since we lost in 2024, and we're just racking our heads about how the heck do we win back power again? Because we have none right now. The Republicans control the Senate, the House, and the executive branch, and some will say the judiciary, right? All right, so no power, how do we get it back? No one seems to know how to do it. We go out, it's R&D mode, we gotta figure it out. And so far, we have narrowed it down to 3 things that define a candidate that will win in 2026. First, they have to put working class voters first. Maybe not even voters, it's just working class people, period. You have to center working class policies, not include it in your stump speech, not have it be a bullet point on your webpage. Actually lead with working class people in mind. And if you have any experience in policy at all in this room, you know that means that you have to prioritize them over other types of people. So it comes to my second point. For us and for these candidates to back working class people and to actually materialize the policies they're promoting, you need to tax the rich. You have to make revenue somewhere. Somewhere there has to be money to fund these social services that have been cut for decades. And this is resonating across the entire nation. Not just in this room, for all those who clapped, like, yeah, but also with voters in rural Georgia, with voters on the suburbs of Philadelphia, with voters in the country in California. I mean, like country, not like country. We've been outside of cities, y'all, and it's been a real bubble popper for us. So, and with all of that, we're realizing something incredibly critical. For Talarico, Plattner, Sandin, Iowa, and among all the other candidates that have been on our watch, they have been reaching out to voters, not necessarily in the middle, they've been reaching out to working class voters, which means that they're actively talking to people you would consider independents or even Republicans. Voters who have voted for Trump and may continue to vote for Trump, you know, like whatever, but they'll vote for our side down ballot. It's not just reaching out to Democrats anymore. We need to do more if we want to win. And that means that these candidates are actively broadening the Democratic coalition around the country. So it's not necessarily that like you have to be more moderate to win, or that you have to be more progressive to get new voters and younger voters. You actually have to do it all. You have to do it all, which is why Common Power, you know, we're like, go Mom Donnie, and also Maricos and Ken Perez, right? Yes, we backed one of the most progressive candidates in the Illinois 9th District, Kat Abou-Ghazaleh, who raised thousands of dollars from one of the largest pools of Gen Z donors since AOC. And also went to rural Georgia in Marjorie Taylor Greene's OC to back Sean Harris in his bid. It's all of it, folks, all of it. But the through line there is working class policies and working class voters. So what does that mean? We're about to wrap up the primary season here in a little bit, all right? Our last slate of primaries are in August. We're one of those states, August 4th for Washington. August 4th is also for Michigan and Arizona and a slate of other people. But what that means is that there's a shift. The primary is when we get to put our foot down and say this is where the country should be heading in. We get to put our weight behind a direction that we believe in. The general is when we go for any and all Democrats. Any and all Democrats. It becomes math. We need this many seats to flip the House. We need this many seats to flip the Senate. It's not every single state, it's certain states. And so we need to be in those certain states and back whoever the Democrat is to get the majority back. That's our mission this year. Take back the House, take back the Senate, and take back power. So let's do a little bit of like a mathematical exercise here. What does that mean in terms of door knocking? Because we only do door knocking, y'all. We don't do postcarding. We don't do remote work. We point you to other organizations we partner with that do that way better than us. But we're a canvassing org. You roll with Common Power, you're talking to a voter at their doors. So, really quick here. A volunteer, on average, can door knock about 40 doors a day. All right, and that's a conservative number, about 40 doors a day. There's about a little bit more than 50 of you in this room here, okay? So a bit more than 50 of you in this room. But 50 is a good round number. If you go on a Common Power trip, which lasts 4 days, there's 4 days of canvassing, 50 volunteers who door knock 40 doors a day for 4 days will door knock on 8,000 doors. You'll knock on 8,000 doors. And let me put this into perspective, all right? For example, does anybody know what the margin was for one of the biggest Senate races in 2024 in Michigan? Okay, it was Alyssa Slotkin versus Mike Rogers. Over 5 million people voted in that election. Who thinks the margin was more than 20,000 voters? Raise your hand. Okay, we're getting it. Yeah, okay. Who thinks the margin is between 15 to 20? Who thinks it's between 5 and 10? Okay, who thinks it was less than 5,000? Okay, all right. The actual margin was 19,000 voters. If all of you knocked on a door in a Michigan Senate race, which is happening again this year, right? It's happening again this year, and we assume similar margins, you would have knocked on half of that margin. Just you all in this room for 4 days out of this year could have knocked on half of the margin of a statewide Senate race in a very critical state. Now imagine what more of you can do everywhere else. That's the power of common power. When we go, we select the places, we work with our partner organizations to go where there are no other volunteers. We talk to voters that other volunteers can't easily reach. Whether it's a 30-minute drive outside of the city, we're walking down long roads with each other, or we're in Spanish-speaking neighborhoods. Whatever it means we're getting to voters that have not been talked to before. That's the impact you make with us when you go with us this year. So I will leave you with this, all right? I'll leave you with this. I'm turning 28 this year, okay? I'm turning 28 this year, all right? I know, just like, ooh, I'm like, yeah. But so my first election that I voted in was the first Trump presidential election, actually. I voted in 2016. And that has been, so whatever, like, the 10 years since, whatever you want to call this, the Trump era, chaotic, whatever, that's been my reality. That's how people of my generation and much younger have perceived the country they grow up in. It's also been 10 years. This is year 10, year 10 of being in this. So I refuse to believe that anybody in this room doesn't understand the stakes. I also refuse to believe that none of y'all know what's gonna happen if you don't do something. Right, I spent my time up here not talking about the problem, but how you can solve it. That's why you're here in this room. And listen, I'm choosing to believe that if you can't do your most to your most uncomfortablest most, it's a logistical issue, all right? Maybe there's too many options. That's fine, that's why you're here. That's why I'm here, that's why they're here. You're about to pick something today, right? And if it's not that, maybe it's because, you don't have enough time. Well, you're about to make time after this event. Maybe it's financial, and that's okay. You don't have to fly across the country. There's a congressional district right here in Washington. Marie Gluesenkamp-Perez says we need to defend the CD3. Maybe it's physical, and that's all right. If you can't door knock, you can sponsor someone else who can. So if that's all that's in your way, that's really good. You did the hardest part, you got here. Everything else is figure-outable. Everything else is figure-outable. And y'all gonna figure it out, right? Yeah. Okay. So, all right, do what John said. Come out of here with a plan. Y'all better have a plan. We're going on 35 trips starting September 16th all the way through Election Day, and I just made a case for just 4 days of your time. Okay? And not only that, you can layer it. Do some stuff with Common Power. Do some stuff with the NAACP. Do some stuff with the organizations that you're probably already involved in. But make some time to go to another state to talk to voters there, because we know that we don't get any of our rights if we don't have power. So, thank you.
So, I'm planning to travel to Texas, and I'd love to have some folks join me, particularly people of faith, because we'll have an opportunity to talk directly through our faith to many people that are interested in looking at things differently. I'm not a great canvasser, but I have done it some, and it's surprisingly interesting. I don't, my nose was never quite bitten off. But the most important thing are those moments of intimacy where I saw the problem differently through the eyes of one person. I could start to see the other side, not as a series of fox icons, but rather a human beating heart who had fears that were like mine, but directed towards a different solution and the product of a huge media stream. So knocking on doors is like knocking on the door of my soul, as well as the person I'm talking with. It's a profound, almost missionary opportunity if you're interested in it, and I can guarantee it's a growing opportunity. Anyway, that speech aside, now we're moving to a song. Kathryn Lafond, known for her love of prayer, song, and democracy, is one of the key organizers of this event. I've gotten lots of credit today, but really about 6 people put this together, and I'm 1/6. So for over 25 years, she's served her community as an intuitive energy healer, spiritual guide, writer, teacher of wild foods and medicine classes, and a death doula, and an officiant. Her current focus is on climate change and reflective of her love for Earth. And if we think about it, democracy and climate, both, one cannot be fixed without the other. Married for nearly 40 years with 3 grown kids, she joyfully finds new lessons in being present for 4 grandbabies and tolerating weird people like me. Kathryn.
And so now it's your turn to get involved. This song is a solidarity song written by Heidi Wilson for getting through tough times. This past week, this song got stuck in my heart and in my head, and now I want it to get stuck in yours. And there's only 4 lines. It's called Hold On. So I'm going to sing each line and have you repeat after me, and then we'll sing it all together a few times. Hold on, hold on, hold on, hold on, my dear ones, my dear ones, here comes the dawn. Here comes the dawn. Together. Hold on. Hold on. My dear ones, here comes the dawn. Hold on. Hold on, my dear ones, here comes the dawn. Hold on.
Now we transition to you and our breakout group. So could the 6 facilitators come forth and line up along this line with your signs? Okay, we have Faith Action over here, up on this side, on the north. Midterms, all the people that want to canvas are kind of getting around here. Anyway, so now we're going to hear from our facilitators about how they were touched by what you said.
We were talking about the connection between our concern about our climate, our environment, and democracy. And I was touched by the number of people who felt a real connection to the earth, to gardening, to plants, to flowers, and to the overall climate and the dangers that we are facing. We also talked about the things that make it hard for people to go out and take action, that people worry they're going to spend a lot of time knocking on doors where nobody's answering, or making calls and nobody picks up the phone. and that it's important to remember that when we actually reach people, we make a difference. And so that's what I'd like to share with you. That yeah, it's sometimes hard work, but it's actually pretty nice. And when we get there, it works.
And we can hear from Paul Ossendorf on protest and letter writing.
Okay, well, we had a great group. We had a couple leaders from Bainbridge Indivisible speaking to us about their activities. But we had other people who are involved in other ways in our community and protesting. And I think the sort of the three key points I would take away from protest and resistance is it's part of who we are. That's how this country was founded, and that it's what we need to continue to do if we want to keep the country that we want to live in, and that protesting and resistance matters. It matters to your own personal well-being, but it also matters in making a difference. And it should be creative, it should be nonviolent, and it should be very persistent. You can't just go out on No Kings once and go, okay, we're done, democracy saved. You got to do it. And for example, there's twice a week you can join protests at near the ferry. You don't have to come every week. There's no commitment. And then there's other things that you can do. It's part of what you encounter every day in your life. You're not just protesting on Saturdays, but you're resisting authoritarianism every day. You walk your talk. So.
Thank you, Paul. Now we have Tracy Flood Harris.
Thank you, and good afternoon, everyone. I hope that all of the groups had good conversations and learned something from today's presenters. And I want to thank each and every one of you for being here. Our group was the Civil and Voting Rights and the Rule of Law. I was touched by the genuineness in the room in engaging and being comfortable and asking the hard questions. When you come to events like this, oftentimes you're listening, but you're not engaging. And I appreciate being able to engage and provide tools and resources to those in our space, as well as being able to engage in conversation. And I found it very touching, personally, as the facilitator, to hear the questions and the outreach for more. How do we get more information about candidates? How do we make sure that people know what's happening beyond, and our main speaker, President Harris, beyond electronic devices? Because we have to remember that some people are limited in their resources as well. So being able to go out and talk to individuals and having conversations beyond our immediate circles, and looking beyond the voter's pamphlet when it comes time to select the candidates, making sure that we take advantage of every opportunity that we can to read more and to outreach and to reach out to those that we know, but also to look at the simple things. When you see someone who's on the ballot, who's run several times and lost, some little things that make you go, Many of you remember the nighttime show with Arsenio Hall, and his tagline was, things that make you go, So just remembering that in real life, we really need to think about things that make us pause and think, and that little nag on the back of your neck or little twinge you may feel, there's some truth to it. Trust it. Thank you.
And now I have the pleasure of hearing from Bridget Berry, who will address immigrant needs. group.
Bless me, Father, for I have sinned. We didn't follow the rules. And they were meant to be broken, yeah? So we talked about, it was heartening to see so many people fill the room that wanted to be allies for our immigrant population. And given the Supreme Court's decision this week, it's even more important. So what, is Tip O'Neill was right, all politics are local. And the issue of immigration is local too. So I was heartened by people already doing good things, going out and with accompaniment and doing things. And then we discussed ways that you can help in your own community in Kitsap County, because ICE isn't going to continue to do what they did in Minnesota. They're going to be far more devious, because that's the whole purpose. And now they've got a whole new pile of money. So what evil can they perpetrate with that? So we discussed ways that we can counteract that. And then also helping people who are in need. I volunteer at Fishline, and I was there Thursday, and 25% of the shelving was empty. And we serve 150 families a day. And should the government shut down again, we are the biggest population in the state of Washington of government workers. And so they will have to use the food banks. So just creative ways that we can help our neighbors. So it was a good discussion. And again, I'm sorry, I didn't follow the rules.
That's the spirit of obedience that we need. Yeah, it's interesting. ICE is horrific, but it's also a bit of a continuing education project as to how people that don't have significant privilege have historically been treated. However, segue back, I just misbehaved. Mike Cox, please.
First, I want to thank John McKenzie and Rhonda Peacock back there. They did a great job, and I was on the Zoom thing, and people were very, very appreciative that they were able to tune in. So thank you very much. And it was interesting. It was 6 people, but it had a wide diversity as Common Power, Indivisible, the Faith Action Network, a bunch of climate crazy people, and it was very good. 3 things I took away. 1, we got to collaborate. 2, we got to create community. And 3, you got to do work. This isn't just going to happen by sitting on the couch. So I was really great for those 6 to be in there as a diverse group. And the next one we have, we can do the same thing, because they did really appreciate it. So thank you very much.
And last, but by no means least, Jeff Bissett, who led the Faith Action Breakout.
Many of us were or are ministers in the group, which was really interesting. And so just hearing these different faith traditions wrestling with the narrative that we're hearing from many churches, which is really deeply troubling and saddening, which is at times a message of violence. And so, gosh, what is our responsibility as faith-based people to really offer a counter narrative and what we feel is a truer narrative to our faith traditions and to one another? So just that struck my own soul. I think another theme was just the onslaught of issues that we're facing all at once. It's kind of like the movie Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. It's like there are just so many issues that need to be addressed really at the same time. It can be a bit overwhelming. And so we circle back to, I think, the wisdom and gentleness of this simple question, which is our own personal discernment. What am I called to do, and with whom? Recognizing that there are certain ways of engaging because of our past experiences that might actually just re-engage trauma, and so that's not something we are likely called to do. But I think the gentleness and wisdom of really asking ourselves, what am I called to do? I need to do something. What might that be? So thank you for fostering the opportunity to reflect on that today.
We are in the home stretch. Anyway, that, I think, is the embodiment of devotion, and thanks for your heartful sharing. So I just wanted to end, before we go to our final song, with some thanks, because thanks is what democracy is all about. Thanks for the lives we've been given, the parents we've had, the land we're upon, the community we're part of. Thanks for all those threads that make what we have possible, that are far beyond our own personal creation. So first of all, speakers who've worked for months to put together what they put together. Mark Travis, Robert Harris, Binh Truong. So could I get the facilitators to come forward? I'm going to have different folks all come forward because they've all worked hard. Mike Kelly, Jim McKeever, Paul Ossendorf, Tracy Flood, Bridget, Jeff Bissett, Mike Cox. Please come in. And then we want to start to get to people that have been at it for years. So folks from Fishline, please come forward. Anyone who's involved in Fishline, you don't have to be on the staff. If you're a regular contributor, come forth, step up. So, Fishline's been serving democracy full time. The need for food has never been greater in my life, and Fishline is what is needed. Bridget already mentioned how their shelves were empty. Our shelves on Bainbridge, due to our privilege, are well stocked. So it's time to share. And hopefully each of you will find a way to contribute something either today or soon for Fishline. Next, kayak. Who's involved in kayak? Please step forward. Anyone else involved in kayak? Yeah, we're here to honor commitment, and it comes in many forms. There's no right way. Everyone's got their own plot of the land of democracy to garden. The plight of refugees has never been more perilous, and abusiveness has never been more wanton, and kayaks is here to share. Common power. Could everyone involved in common power please step up? Who did I see there? Yeah. Anyway, I mean, they really are the best of the best if you want to get involved in canvassing, if we want to reestablish what a normal democracy is. So many powers attack us, trying to say that democracy is for the politicians out there. No, it's for the neighbors you have here. It's for those basic communications. It's for trying to bridge the gap. It's for turning dinner parties where we avoid conversation to not offend our relatives, to finding a way to bring those things up. And sharing that which feels scary opens the heart of our families, the heart of our relationships, and the possibilities within our community. And Common Power is one of the leaders in that. Braver Angels. Anyone involved in Braver Angels? Brian, get up here, please. This, along with the faith community, is creating the discourse. It's bridging the gap. It's starting to repair the breach, and that's very, very important work. And anytime you get involved in canvassing, you're doing kind of bridging the gap work. You're doing Braver Angel work. It's a very interesting opportunities, and the beauty of doing it is to join with others, such that if you have an unpleasant experience, you have a ready audience who will listen and appreciate all of your work. So, NAACP. Anyone involved in NAACP? I know you guys are Yeah, so the bigotry and bias that we thought ended in the 60s is back with a vengeance. It's Jim Crow 2.0. And so NAACP is doing the lawsuits that are protecting our rights to vote. They deserve our support however you can contribute. Now would be a great day to either pledge as you can or do something else. It's an investment in ourselves. Indivisibles. We have any indivisibles? Come on, anybody else? They do fabulous work. Then we have climate, let's see, CCL. There we go. And Third Act, we have some third actors. Fran, Bob, Phil, Favero. Third Act's full of talented people over 60. Third Act made this possible. And so, but you make it possible because each of you is an elder, many, I think I haven't seen too many youngers, but as an elder, you have an extended family and we're all in our third act. How can we move that from this kind of slow decline into Palm Springs and golf courses into something that really re-inhabits or revivifies our communities and so on and so forth. So I'm proud to be a member and would hope you might enjoy. Volunteers, any of the people who volunteered to help? Come on, I see some of you. Anybody who got involved? All right, and the last and most important group is you, okay? You are the heart of democracy who are seated. These ones are standing for democracy. You are the currency of democracy, and with you, we are rich indeed. Your convictions, your contributions, and more than anything, your devotion will help us turn the tide. So, with that, Kathryn Lafond will now help us sing ourselves home. Have a seat. Thank you, Kathryn. Sorry? Or they keep standing. Okay. All right.
We need to stand to sing ourselves home, I think. And this song is a freedom song that became an American civil rights anthem back in 1962, 64 years ago. So when we're saying, what am I called to do? Well, this song, Ain't Gonna Let Nobody Turn Me Round, is what we're going to do. So the words, ain't gonna let nobody turn me round, turn me round, ain't gonna let nobody turn me round. I'm gonna keep on walking, keep on talking, marching up to freedom land. The second time around, ain't gonna let injustice, ain't gonna let no hatred, ain't gonna let no oppression, ain't gonna let nobody. So here we go. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me round, turn me round, turn me round. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me round. I'm gonna keep on a-walking, keep on a-talking, marching up to freedom land. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me round, turn me round. Turn me round, ain't gonna let nobody turn me round. Gonna keep on a-walking, keep on a-talking, marching up to freedom's land. Thank you.
We want to give Mr. Kidd here a round of applause for getting us organized. Let's give this guy a good hand, right?
Well, for those wanting to continue the discussion, and we're starting a WhatsApp community that will have various threads that can follow whatever you're called to do. So find a way to support, find other people around the county, share ideas, resources, and hopes. Next, to celebrate your hard work in the next 3 months, we're having a democracy concert October 10th with recording artist Dana Lyons, put together by Kathryn Lafond, who's right there. Great effort. It's going to be at the Linwood Theater, and it'll fill our sails for that last bit of work to do. So join us. So coffee, conversations, and snacks await there. If you feel like a wanderer, there's a great labyrinth. I'm sorry, I lost it. A labyrinth up that way, a nice garden to go that way. Whatever fills your sails, let's do it. And thanks so much for the gift of your presence.